"You're replaceable, sweetheart." That's what he said. In front of everyone. With that smug, punchable smirk he probably practiced in a mirror next to his CrossFit protein powder. I was mid-sentence, giving a quarterly client forecast that I'd built from scratch over the last 8 years, when he cut me off like I was a temp who stapled something wrong. My voice literally hung in the air while he adjusted his stupid tie and said it again louder, like he was trying to humiliate me into vanishing. "Sweetheart, we need agility, not legacy. You're replaceable." I didn't say a word. Not one. I just looked around that glass conference room at the people I'd mentored, coached, vouched for. Some looked away. Some did that thing where they act busy with their phones to avoid eye contact with betrayal. One guy even chuckled. That soft, embarrassed chuckle you use when someone kicks a dog, and you don't want to admit you saw it. I gathered my folders, stood up, and buttoned my blazer like I was sealing a coffin. Not mine. Now before we go any further, 97% of people listen to stories like this without ever subscribing or liking. And I get it, you're just scrolling. But for those of us who've ever been blindsided, dismissed, or told to make room for innovation, it means a lot when you support stories like these. So if this hits close to home, take 2 seconds to hit like or subscribe. It genuinely keeps the fire lit over here. Thanks. Now back to that smug bastard. His name was Logan. Of course it was. Logan wore quarter zips indoors and talked like LinkedIn had a baby with an energy drink. First day as VP and he was already shaking things up, firing redundancies, pushing out anyone who remembered what a Rolodex was. His grand strategy? Rebrand relationship management as automated touchpoint synchronization. I'd managed 3 of the biggest revenue accounts this firm had. Knew their kids' birthdays, their golf handicaps, which board members were secretly sleeping together. You don't automate trust. You earn it. And I had. 12 years. I bled for this place through mergers, restructures, and more vision realignments than I can count. I kept my head down and numbers up while the VPs rotated through like bad Tinder dates. But Logan, he didn't see legacy. He saw a salary he didn't understand attached to a woman over 40 who didn't flirt back. So he cut me loose. "You'll thank me someday," he said, all fake sympathy and crocodile charisma. "This industry's changing, Ava. We're going lean. Nimble. You're great, just not scalable." I smiled. Not because I was okay, I wasn't. I felt like someone had just unplugged my lungs. But because I knew something he didn't. Something buried deep in my 2018 contract renewal. A single sentence no one in that room remembered, because none of them were there when I negotiated it. The former COO, bless his spreadsheet-loving soul, had valued me. He knew the weight I carried. So we added a clause. Quietly. Without fanfare. I never brought it up. Never needed to. Until now. As I walked out, Logan made some joke about my legacy folder, and the team laughed. I didn't flinch. I walked right past them, heels clicking like a metronome counting down his career. He thought he'd erased me. But what he really did was unlock the part of me that doesn't just forgive and forget. The part that files things. Plans. Waits. And 2 days later, one of our top clients emailed the company. "If Ava's gone, so are we." By day 3, the silence had teeth. They thought the world would just keep spinning without me. That clients would roll over for whatever junior rep they fed into the system like ground beef. But relationships don't work like spreadsheets. They don't update themselves because a kid with a slick haircut and a digital pitch deck sends a "hey there" smiling face with smiling eyes email chain. No, these accounts were built on nuance. On remembering who just had knee surgery and which exec likes Glenlivet 18/12. On knowing when not to talk about Q4 numbers because someone's dog just died. And yet, in their infinite arrogance, they handed the Pearson Logistics account, our largest, to Connor. Connor, a 27-year-old who once asked me what net 30 meant and genuinely thought AR aging was a skincare metric. He walked into that first client call like he was hosting a podcast, called the COO Sir for times too many, and ended the Zoom by pitching them a revolutionary cross-platform KPI dashboard that didn't exist yet. The COO of Pearson, a man I'd personally pulled out of a supplier lawsuit 5 years ago, texted me directly that night. "What the hell is going on over there? You leave, and I get TikTok interns in return. I didn't reply. Not yet. I was letting the fire spread on its own. By Friday, the contract renewal with Pearson, worth just north of $12 million, had stalled, then paused, then vanished from the forecast tracker entirely. I watched from the outside like someone observing their own funeral through one-way glass. No one in sales could reach them. Legal was still waiting for the red lines. Finance flagged the missing projection but didn't know who to ask. And Logan? Logan started hosting motivational stand-ups about adaptability while that smirk of his started to shrink a little more every hour. But the real kicker came Saturday morning, buried in a reply all that never should have hit my inbox, but did, thanks to someone at Pearson still looping in my personal email out of habit. The subject line was renewal status, final confirmation. The body was short. Without Ava, this deal's not happening. No legal jargon. No hedging. Just the truth. That's when the dominoes started to tremble. Internally, they were scrambling. I knew the signs. Late-night calendar blocks from people who never worked past 5 o'clock. Unscheduled alignment sessions. A Slack channel spun up at midnight called #ProjectRebuild. They were patching holes with duct tape and buzzwords. Because what they never understood was this. I didn't just manage clients. I protected them. From bad calls. From flaky vendors. From themselves sometimes. I didn't sell deliverables. I sold trust. And trust doesn't transfer with a badge and a copy of Salesforce. By Monday, the silence from Pearson was formal. They'd gone dark. Which in this business is corporate speak for lawyers are involved. That renewal? It wasn't just dead. It was decomposing. And no one could answer the question echoing through the sales floor. What did Ava do to keep them happy? Logan didn't have an answer. But I did. And 2 other clients were about to follow suit. By Wednesday, the second domino fell. Not with noise, but with that sickening grace only corporate betrayal can deliver. Castell and Rowe, the legacy account I'd nurtured since before Logan even had a LinkedIn profile, pulled the plug. Just like that. After 9 years, quarterly reviews, and the Christmas card their CEO personally signed every December, they sent a 3-line email to terminate services effective immediately. The stated reason? Internal changes and a need for renewed continuity alignment. Translation: you fired the only person we trusted and handed us some jargon-spitting AI enthusiast who thinks rapport is built with emojis and scheduling links. I didn't need to ask. I knew what happened. Connor's buddy, Jenna, one of Logan's hand-picked disruptors, had been assigned to Castell. She tried to revamp our workflow for them using a shiny new template that buried their pain points beneath a grid of pastel graphs. She dropped the ball on a shipment verification deadline, mispronounced the founder's name on a call, and this part almost made me spit out my tea. Told them we could probably shave costs by automating quarterly reviews. Castell and Rowe didn't need automation. They needed me. I was the one who personally navigated their transition when they got acquired, who knew their European compliance contacts by name, who once rescheduled a whole product demo when their CTO's daughter went into labor. That wasn't process. That was presence. And presence can't be replicated by a Google Doc. Of course, Logan didn't take it seriously. When the board asked about the second loss in a week, he threw up a graph and rattled off something about sunsetting inefficient legacy strategies. Said I'd relied too much on manual rapport and hadn't built institutional redundancy. He even had the audacity to call me a one-woman bottleneck. A bottleneck that brought in $30 million last year. But sure, Logan. Blame the woman who built the road while you're busy swerving into a ditch. Meanwhile, I was at my kitchen table in my sweatpants, sipping coffee out of my world's best problem-solver mug, filing paperwork. My LLC, long drafted but never deployed, was officially live. Velen Strategies, LLC. Quiet. Professional. Mine. I didn't post a dramatic announcement. I didn't email anyone. I didn't clap back. I just edited one line on my LinkedIn bio. Independent client strategist, relationship-driven solutions for high-impact partnerships. That was it. No hashtags. No emojis. No manifesto. Just a breadcrumb. But that breadcrumb didn't go unnoticed. By the next morning, I had 3 connection requests from former colleagues, 1 DM from a recruiter, and a short, polite message from the Castell and Rowe COO. Ava, if you're available for a coffee next week, I'd appreciate a chance to talk directly. No logo. No company email. Just his initials and a personal address. They knew the rules. I hadn't solicited anyone. But I didn't have to. Because relationships don't need billboards. They just need a door. And I had just opened one. It started with a typo. A single missing field in a shipment log for Trident Systems. My third and most volatile account. They ran their logistics like a Swiss watch and had a zero-tolerance policy for fumbled deliverables. I used to triple-check every doc before it went out, call their ops manager personally to confirm drop times, and include an extra line item for peace of mind. But Jenna didn't do that. Jenna skimmed. Jenna delegated. Jenna missed the part where Trident's quarterly shipment to a defense contractor in Maryland required a specific serialized certificate that had to be notarized, not digitally signed. And Trident noticed. 3 hours after the shipment hit the warehouse floor, I got a ping to my personal email. Again, muscle memory from someone who forgot I no longer wore the company badge. The subject line? We have a problem. By end of day, that problem had evolved into a formal notice of breach. Trident's legal team cited breakdown of trust, irreparable harm to operational continuity, and my personal favorite, strategic negligence. The email wasn't just carbon copied to the firm. It was airdropped on every executive from legal to finance to the CEO himself. 30 million in revenue gone. 3 accounts. 1 week. Finance flagged it red in the quarterly tracker. The word crisis showed up in the subject line of 6 different internal memos by Thursday morning. Sales was in freefall. Jenna went quiet on Slack. Connor deleted his tweet about making legacy systems leaner. And Logan? Logan started sweating through his undershirt like a first-year associate about to get grilled by a partner with receipts. The CEO, Michael Brandt, who hadn't spoken to me directly since our 2016 holiday party where he congratulated me on keeping the nerds happy, stormed into the 10th floor glass fishbowl and demanded answers. His voice, apparently, could be heard 3 departments over. I trusted you to modernize, not vaporize revenue. Logan blamed onboarding. He blamed outdated account notes. He blamed inherited personnel structures. What he didn't have was a single documented performance issue tied to me. Because there wasn't one. That's when HR got dragged in. And here's where the unraveling began in earnest. They pulled my file. Reviewed my termination. Realized, with dawning horror, that there was no misconduct report, no warning, not even a flagged email. Just a vague memo from Logan citing strategic realignment and agility needs. No beep. No review. No cause. Which meant one very important thing legally. I hadn't been fired for cause. And someone, probably the head of compliance, if I had to guess, remembered that buried clause from 2018. The one I negotiated directly with the former COO. The one no one else ever looked at again. They were connecting the dots now. Slowly. Stupidly. But surely. And as all this unfolded, I said nothing. I didn't post. I didn't call. I didn't gloat. I went to yoga. I got a massage. I drank my coffee slowly. From where I sat, the collapse wasn't loud. It was elegant. A system built on arrogance, now devouring itself. And someone, somewhere on that executive team, finally said the thing they should have said weeks ago. Has anyone tried contacting Ava? The call came at 7:12 p.m., just as I was pouring a glass of wine. Merlot. Not celebratory, just earned. The number flashed across my phone like a ghost from a former life. Brandt, Michael, CEO. I let it ring twice before answering. Not out of spite. Out of precision. Timing matters when the wolf finally knocks on your door. Ava, he began, skipping pleasantries. His voice was tight. The kind you use when you're trying to sound in control but you're already 2 steps behind. We've been reviewing some things. I didn't respond. Silence is a scalpel in these moments. We've noticed that several clients have been in contact with you. Still, I said nothing. Let him talk. Let the tension bloom. He cleared his throat. That's a conflict, Ava. You know that. Those clients belong to us. We've initiated legal counsel to. I cut in gently, calm as a lake with something sharp at the bottom. Michael, please consult Section 12.b of my 2018 contract renewal. It's in the third PDF attachment you initialed but didn't read. Silence. Then the faint clicking of keys. Probably on that awful aluminum keyboard he never stopped bragging about in meetings. Section 12, he asked, but I wasn't answering anymore. I simply ended the call. 10 minutes later, I got the official letter via email. Legalese masquerading as dominance. Cease and desist. Exclusive account ownership. Unfair competition. And then my favorite line. Immediate legal recourse will be pursued if contact continues with any former or active clients of the firm. I didn't write back. I forwarded it to their general counsel and CC'd HR. The same HR rep who had once cried in my office after being steamrolled during a policy rewrite, and who I'd quietly protected with a redline revision that saved her job. This time, my email was just one sentence. Please review Section 12.b of the 2018 contract renewal signed July 19th, countersigned by COO Harold B. Foster. I didn't need to explain it. I didn't need to attach a copy. That clause was a hand grenade with the pin already pulled. And they were holding it. 37 minutes later, their legal reply arrived. No threats. No posture. Just 3 words. We're reviewing now. Section 12.b wasn't flashy. It didn't even take up a full paragraph. It simply stated that all client accounts originated and independently maintained by employee for 5 or more consecutive fiscal years shall be subject to optional exclusive control by said employee upon formal separation, provided no cause-based termination is on record. They'd missed it. All of them. Logan never asked. Legal never double-checked. Michael forgot we even had that negotiation over lunch in 2018, where I calmly insisted on that line as protection against, and I quote, future leadership turbulence. And now, that turbulence had a name. A jawline. A destroyed pipeline. The clause was old. Dusty. Probably buried under a decade of revisions and ego. But it was binding. And I hadn't just kept the clients. I'd kept the receipts. The moment they read it aloud in the legal review room. Word for word, no skips, no softening. I imagine it hit like a sledgehammer dressed in Helvetica. All client accounts originated and independently maintained by employee for 5 or more consecutive fiscal years shall be subject to optional exclusive control by said employee upon formal separation, provided no cause-based termination is on record. No loopholes. No soft spots. No corporate vagueness to wriggle through. Optional exclusive control. Upon formal separation. And no cause-based termination. I could picture the exact expressions. General counsel blinking too hard. The VP of compliance clutching her coffee like it held answers. Michael pacing. Logan pale. That smug upstart VP who fired me? Rumor has it he went full statue. No eye contact, no blinking. Just slowly realizing he had pulled the pin on a clause he didn't even know existed. Because here's what none of them wanted to say out loud. I originated all 3 accounts. Pearson, Castell and Rowe. Trident Systems. I brought them in, onboard them, nurtured them, and defended them through at least 2 economic downturns and 5 management shakeups. Each one of those clients had been with me for over 5 years. Some, damn near a decade. Independently managed. Not a single person in that building could claim co-ownership. I didn't delegate those relationships. I guarded them. And as for the termination? HR had already confirmed it. No formal performance issues, no internal investigations, no misconduct. Logan had tossed me out on buzzwords and ego alone. Strategic realignment, he called it. That phrase was about to cost them more than their last software migration. The clause wasn't just enforceable, it was irreversible. They'd handed me the keys to their kingdom and asked me to leave. I didn't take the keys. I took the castle. From what I was told later, because of course people talk when the walls start cracking. The room fell into silence so thick you could hear legal's highlighter squeak against the contract. Someone asked in a barely audible whisper. Did anyone know this was in here? No one did. Or no one would admit it. Because the only person who had read it back then, really read it, was the old COO, Harold Foster. And Harold had retired 2 years ago, leaving behind a legacy of cautious brilliance and contracts that read like chessboards. A junior associate in legal reportedly muttered, "She's already formed an LLC. We're done, right?" And someone, maybe Brandt, maybe someone who still thought they could salvage this, snapped, "Get the board together. Now. Emergency session. No more standing meetings. No more pretending this was containable." They were staring down the barrel of a revenue collapse tied not to a market shift or a data breach, but to one woman, one clause, and one act of complete, lawful control. While they scrambled in glass rooms and whispered behind closed doors, I was in a co-working space downtown, finalizing my new onboarding docs for a transition liaison package. One of my clients had asked for it. They didn't ask if I wanted to come back. They asked how to follow me forward. The boardroom was packed. Not with confidence, with fear, wearing tailored suits. The legal team sat stone-faced at the head of the table, their silence more damning than any memo. The CEO, Michael, stood with his back to the room, staring out the 10th floor window like the skyline might offer a better answer than the stack of legal documents trembling in his hand. And Logan? Logan was sinking. "She never mentioned this," he stammered, voice cracking, sweat darkening the collar of his very expensive, very useless shirt. Michael didn't even turn around, just muttered, low and venomous, "You never checked." A printed copy of my 2018 contract, Section 12.B highlighted in fluorescent yellow, sat dead center on the mahogany table like an unexploded mine. Surrounding it were the printed filings of my newly formed LLC, stamped and time-stamped with state seals. Account transition notices, properly formatted, already delivered to Pearson, Castell and Rowe, and Trident Systems. All dated within hours of my formal termination. All perfectly within my rights under the clause. She had a plan. That's what they whispered. Some in awe, some in panic, some in rage. "She planned this," the CFO muttered, flipping through my filing packet. "She already had the structure. Even the onboarding forms look polished." "She must have had help," someone else said, as if competence must be a conspiracy. But they were all missing the point. I hadn't done this in reaction. I'd done this in anticipation. This wasn't revenge. This was the fire escape I built 5 years ago, and kept hidden behind a bookshelf until the flames arrived. Harold Foster, the old COO, had warned me once years back, during a late Friday conversation when the office was dark and the budget war was heating up again. "They won't always value you. Make sure you've got leverage when they forget what you're worth." So we'd slipped it in. One clause. One sentence. No fanfare. And I'd prepared everything else quietly over time. The LLC paperwork saved as drafts. The domain reserved. The client dossiers, contract handoffs, CRM templates, all structured and stored in an encrypted folder called Contingency North. They never noticed because they never looked past my smile. Never imagined that someone who brought cookies to team meetings and remembered their kids' names would also keep a war map folded under her desk drawer. And now they were paying the price. Legal finished their review. Clause is enforceable. It's clean. There's no ambiguity. Silence. Then Michael turned, finally facing the room. "And the clients?" "Already responding through her LLC," Legal replied. "Some have already executed NDAs. At least one has confirmed intent to transfer scope." Michael didn't sit down. He didn't speak. He just took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes like he was trying to erase the week. "Logan tried to salvage something. We can challenge this. She didn't warn us." "You fired her," Michael snapped. "In front of half the floor. With no review. No cause. And now she owns 3 of our largest streams." He tossed the glasses onto the table. "This isn't a lawsuit. This is a license negotiation." I wasn't in the room when it happened. Didn't need to be. I knew exactly how it would unfold. You don't need to watch the fire to know it's burning. Especially when you stack the wood yourself. The next call came on a Sunday. Not a demand. Not a threat. A request, carefully worded, painfully polite. The kind of corporate humility that only appears when leverage has flipped like a rusted weather vane in a tornado. Michael's voice was different this time. Quieter. Strained. "Ava, I'd like to speak professionally. No lo oyes. I said I'd give him 20 minutes. Video call only. And that he'd need to come prepared with questions, not assumptions. We connected at 3 p.m. sharp. I was already in frame, backdrop clean and intentional. Not one of those fake bookcase filters, but my actual shelves, with contracts, framed awards, and a very deliberate print that read, "Make them regret the discount." Michael logged in with a background blur that couldn't hide the chaos in his eyes. He started with what sounded like an apology but wasn't. There were oversights. We moved too fast. I take responsibility for. I'm not here for retrospectives, I said calmly, not unkindly. I'm here to discuss forward terms. He blinked. Tried to recalibrate. All right. What would that look like? I clicked my screen once. A PDF popped into his view, branded, watermarked, already legally vetted. Velen Strategies is prepared to license client interface rights for Pearson, Castell and Rowe, and Trident Systems under a quarterly access agreement. You'll retain reporting visibility, but not operational control. His face twitched at the word license. Rates. I scrolled down for him. Base retainer per account. Renewal bonuses. Exclusivity premiums, optional. Meaning I could license their access alone, or open the door to competitors. I gave them the choice. I just made sure neither option felt like winning. He scanned the numbers. I watched his throat tighten. And if we declined? I leaned in slightly, voice level. Then you'd continue hemorrhaging market share, while I service your former clients through direct channels. Which, by the way, they've already welcomed. Silence. Then, you had this planned. I smiled, just a fraction. I had this prepared. You made it necessary. He rubbed his temples, then asked, "Is this revenge?" "No," I said. "Revenge would be watching your entire pipeline implode from a beach with a margarita. This is reclamation. You mishandled what I built. Now you'll pay to rent it." To his credit, he didn't argue. The man finally understood the math. I wasn't trying to destroy them. That would have been easy. A couple of press leaks, a few whispers in the right investor circles, and the blood would have been on the quarterly report. But I wanted something cleaner. Something sustainable. Control. A structured future where they could still function, but only through me. Michael cleared his throat. "We'll need to review internally." "You have 48 hours, I said. "After that, rates go up. By 20%. He nodded. The way men nod when they realize the storm isn't coming. It's already in the room. We ended the call. No gloating. Just business. And leverage. The kind that used to live in their boardroom. And now lived in mine. The final call wasn't scheduled. It was summoned. Late afternoon, midweek. A special session. Invite sent to my inbox with no subject line, no agenda, just a time and a link. I knew what it was before I even opened it. The kind of meeting where silence had already done most of the talking, and now the last word had to come from me. I joined precisely on the hour. For faces greeted me. Michael, jaw-locked. Head of legal. Glasses lower on her nose than usual. The CFO, fingers laced so tight her knuckles were white. And Logan, in the corner of the frame, pretending to be absorbed in a non-existent spreadsheet. I said nothing. Instead, I clicked share screen and opened one document, the one that had started it all. My 2018 contract renewal. Scrolled down slowly. No commentary. No teatrix. Just a steady cursor hovering over the now famous line. Section 12.b. As if reading it for the first time. And in many ways, the room followed the highlight like it was a lit fuse. All client accounts originated and independently maintained by employee for 5 or more consecutive fiscal years shall be subject to optional exclusive control by said employee upon formal separation, provided no cause-based termination is on record. The silence on their end was pure voltage. Then softly, almost involuntarily, legal whispered, "Oh my God." Michael didn't speak right away. He stared at the screen like it had just swallowed his career whole. When he did finally open his mouth, it was just 3 words. "We accept your terms." Just like that. No posturing. No haggling. The licensing deal was approved as presented, multi-year, renewable, exclusive by default. Velen Strategies would be paid quarterly to grant access to the accounts I'd built, protected, and now legally owned. No public statement. No press release. Just a quiet entry on the books and an updated access credential for their systems. One that now required my firm's approval. Logan wasn't fired. That would have been too loud for their liking. Instead, he was reassigned to an internal innovation think tank, which, in their world, meant a windowless corner and a LinkedIn update that no one would like. I ended the call the same way I had entered. Calm, composed, untouchable. But just before I clicked leave meeting, I looked directly into the camera, eyes steady, voice cool. You said I was replaceable. A pause. But it turns out, clients don't replace loyalty that easily.